Hello everyone, today we will be discussing the NEET 2020 paper. I am Anshul Khanna discussing code G5 of physics paper. If you have attempted any other code or you need solution and answer key to any other code, go to the srichaitanya.net website and you will find solutions as well as answer key for different codes there. In my code G5, physics questions are from 136 to 180. So without wasting time, let's start discussing the question. So question number 136 goes like this. A series LCR circuit is connected to an AC voltage source. When L is removed from the circuit, the phase difference between current and voltage is pi by 3. Instead, when capacitance is removed from the circuit, the phase difference between current and voltage is again pi by 3. They are asking us what is the power factor of the circuit. So in the question, the data tells us that the inductive reactance and capacitive reactance are equal. Since XL equals to XC, we know that this LCR circuit is under resonance condition. The impedance for an LCR circuit Z is given by under root of R square plus XL minus XC whole square. Since we know that XL and XC are equal, they are going to cancel out each other. The power factor, which is we write as cos phi, is nothing but the resistance upon the impedance. Since the impedance will be equal to resistance, on substituting in place of impedance resistance, we will get that cos phi equals to 1. So the power factor of circuit is 1, which is option number 2. Let's move to next question 137. Question is, a wire of length L, area of cross section A is hanged from a fixed support. The length of the wire is L1 when a mass is suspended from the free end. The expression for Young's modulus is. This means that the length of the wire changes from L and becomes L1 on placing a mass M. So they are asking what is the Young's modulus. So simply use that F equals to Y A delta L by L. The length change delta L will be equals to final length L1 minus initial length L. Substitute the data here, you will get F equals to Y A into change in length, which is L1 minus L upon the original length L. To find Young's modulus, bring the L up, A and L1 minus L down here. When you do this, you can see that option 3 is the right option. Let's move to next question. A solenoid of 50 centimeter length having 100 turns carries a current of 2.5 ampere. The magnetic field at the center of solenoid. So if we have a solenoid with us through which, let's say, a current I flows, we know that the magnetic field inside the solenoid is given by mu naught N I. What is N here? N is the number of turns per unit length. The number of turns are given as 100 and the length is given as 50 centimeter. We need to convert this 50 centimeter into SI unit, that will be 0.5 meter. So we will get the number of turns per unit length to be equals to the number of turns 100 upon the length, which is 0.5. This gives me that the number of turns per unit length is 200. The value of mu naught is 4 pi into 10 raised to the power of minus 7. The number of turns per unit length 200 and the current in the circuit is given as 2.5 ampere. On substituting the data and doing this simple calculation, we can see that the answer is simply option 4. Next question. A ray is incident at an angle of incidence I on one surface of a small angle prism. So the prism is a thin prism with angle of prism A and emerges normally from the opposite surface. If the refractive index of the material of prism is mu, the angle of incidence is equal to. So if we visualize a thin prism and then we visualize a ray of light going and incidenting on the second surface normally. If the ray is incident on the second surface normally, it means that it will go through the second surface without any deviation. So no deviation will take place on the second surface. So whatever deviation took place, that will take place on the first surface. Let's say the ray of light is incident at some angle I and it goes into the prism at an angle R1. We know for all prism R1 plus R2 equals to A. Since here R2 is 0 because the ray is incident on second surface normally, since R2 is 0, we can say that R1 itself is equals to A. Now we know R1 is A. So the deviation which will happen only on first surface will be I minus R1. And for thin prism, we can write the deviation as mu minus 1 into A. Equating these two, I will write I minus R1, which is A, equals to mu minus 1 into A. On opening up this bracket, I get I minus A equals to mu A minus A, cancel out this minus A on both the sides, you will simply get the angle of incidence to be mu A, which is nothing but option number 2. Next question, in a certain region of space of volume 0.2 meter cube, the electric potential is found to be 5 volt throughout. So, everywhere in that small volume of 0.2 meter cube, the potential everywhere is 5 volt. The magnitude of electric field in the region is. Here in this question, the volume is given for time pass. If potential in a region of space is constant, the electric field in that region comes out to be 0. So, you do not need to raise pen to answer this question. The answer is simply 0, which is option number 4. Question number 141. For which of the following Bohr model is not valid? You guys should know that Bohr model is applicable only on single electron species. You can't apply Bohr model on any particular type of atom which has got more than 1 electron. So, let us see the 4 option. The first option, singly ionized helium atom. Yes, it has only 1 electron. Bohr model can be applied. Second option, deuteron atom. Deuteron has 1 extra neutron, but the number of electrons is still 1. So, we can still apply Bohr model to deuteron atom. Singly ionized neon atom. Neon has got 10 electrons. If you singly ionize it, it will still have 9 electrons left. So, you can't apply Bohr model on singly ionized neon atom. That's why that can't be the answer. So, this is the answer to the question on which you can't apply Bohr model, option 3. Next question, 142. Light of average flux 20 watt per centimeter square falls on a non-reflecting surface at normal incidence having surface area of 20 centimeter square. The energy received by the surface during the time span of 1 minute. Here the quantity average flux of 20 watt per centimeter square. What is this? This is nothing but the intensity of light, and we know that intensity is nothing but energy incident per unit area per unit time. This is what intensity is, kids. So, the total energy incident will be equal to intensity of the light source multiplied by the area on which the light falls multiplied by the time for which the light falls. Here the intensity is given as 20 watt per centimeter square. We need to convert this into SI unit. So, in place of centimeter square, you should write 10 raised to the power of minus 4 meter square. Area again given as centimeter square. We should rather convert into SI unit and write the area as 20 into 10 raised to the power of minus 4. Somebody might say, sir, you should not have converted at both the places, but it's a wise practice to follow the SI system. Now, the time is given as 1 minute, converted again into SI unit 60 seconds. On solving this, you will get that correct answer is option 2, which is 24 into 10 raised to the power of 3 joule. Next question, 143. An electron is accelerated from rest through a potential difference of V volt. If the de Broglie wavelength of electron is 1.227 into 10 raised to the power of minus 2 nanometer, the potential difference is. Now, this same type of question came even in NEET 2019, where you need to find the de Broglie wavelength of an accelerated electron. The formula we will use here is the wavelength in angstrom, the de Broglie wavelength in angstrom equals to under root of 150 by the accelerating potential. Now, here you need to substitute wavelength in angstrom, but wavelength is given in nanometer. So, we will do this. We will say that 10 raised to the power of minus 2 nanometer is as good as 10 raised to the power of minus 1 angstrom. Substitute the data here. So, you will get 10 raised to the power of minus 1. Oh, sorry. I have here 1.227 into 10 raised to the power of minus 2 nanometer. So, this thing becomes 1.227 into 10 raised to the power of minus 1 angstrom. So, on substituting it here, you will get 1.227 into 10 raised to the power of minus 1 angstrom equals to under root of 150 by V. And on solving this data, you get that V comes out to be 10 raised to the power of 4 volt. Question number 144. A body weighs 72 Newton on the surface of Earth. On the surface of Earth, weight is 72 Newton. What is the gravitational force on it at a height equal to the half the radius of Earth? So, on the surface of Earth, let us say Earth has radius r, the weight of the body is 72 Newton. So, they are asking at a height equal to r by 2, what will be the weight of the body. Now, beta, on increasing the height, the mass do not change, the mass remains the same, but as we go away from the center of Earth, the acceleration due to gravity decreases. Now, we know that acceleration due to gravity at a height h above the surface of Earth is given as g r square upon r plus h whole square. This formula works for when h is comparable to r. For h less than r, we use that acceleration due to gravity at height h equals to acceleration due to gravity on the surface of Earth into 1 minus 2h by r. If you have used that formula, you will find that g comes out to be 0, because that is the incorrect formula to be used here. That works only for small value of h. Here h is comparable to the radius of Earth, so we can't use that formula. So, what we should do is use this one, which works for greater heights. Now, here substitute h equals to r by 2. On substituting h equals to r by 2, you will get g r square upon r plus r by 2 becomes 3r by 2, and 3r by 2 whole square will give you 9r square by 4. Cancelling out r square, you will get acceleration due to gravity at height h equals to 4g by 9. If the acceleration due to gravity becomes 4 by 9 times, how many times will the weight become? If the acceleration due to gravity becomes 4 by 9 times, the weight will also become 4 by 9 times. So, the correct answer has to be 4 by 9 times of 72, and 4 by 9 times of 72 is nothing but 32. So, the new weight of this body at a height r by 2 will be 32 Newton, which is nothing but option number 1. Question number 145. Which of the following graph represents the variation of resistivity with temperature for copper? So, now copper is a conductor. When you heat up a conductor, what happens? Sir, when we heat up a conductor, the conductivity decreases, the resistance increases, the resistivity increases. Now, you can see straightforward in option 1 and in option 3, they have decreased the resistivity with the increase in temperature. That happens for semiconductor, that does not happen for conductors. Now, we are left with two options, either option 2 or 4. Which one to choose? Now, there is no linear change. There is no linear change. Though we learn linear formulas in class, linear change work only for a small range. I have said it in class many a time, any small part of a curve looks like a straight line. So, for a small part, if you look on this curve, you will see a straight line. That is why we teach linear changes, but actually it is not linear, it is a curved part. So, that is why the correct answer to question number 145 will be 2. Question number 146. Light of frequency 1.5 times the threshold frequency is incident on photosensitive material. What will be the photoelectric current if the frequency is halved and the intensity is double? I am very sure you would have done this question wrong if you would have not seen this question many times in your papers. So, since the question is straight from our question papers, you might have done it right. Otherwise, it is a nice question and I genuinely love this question. So, the question is pretty simple. There is some metal which, let us say, has some work function, has some threshold frequency FTH. Originally, the light incident here has got frequency of 1.5 FTH. Now, what we are doing is we are doubling the intensity of light, but we are reducing the frequency to half. So, the new frequency of this light will be half of the original, which will be 0.75 times threshold frequency. Now, since the new frequency is 0.75 times the threshold frequency, it is less than the threshold frequency. Since the frequency is less than the threshold frequency, it won't be able to eject out electrons. So, despite doubling the intensity, no electron will come out. And since no electron will come out, what will happen to the photoelectric current? It will drop to 0. So, the correct answer is option 3, which is 0. So, let us move on to the next question. 147. A 40 microfarad capacitor is connected to 220 volt 50 hertz AC supply. The RMS value of current in the circuit is. Now, beta, we know that this is a pure capacitive circuit. The capacitive reactance XC will be given by 1 by omega C. Omega is the angular frequency, which you can write as 2 pi f into C. frequency is given as 50, capacitance is given as 40 microfarad. So you can find out Xc from here. We know that Irms equals to Vrms by Xc. So find out the value of Xc, substitute frequency as 50, capacitance as 40 microfarad, and Vrms as 200, and solve for Irms. When you solve it out, you get that the answer comes out to be nearly 2.5 ampere. It's not a difficult calculation. Question number 148. Assume that light of wavelength 600 nanometer is coming from a star. The limit of resolution of telescope whose objective has diameter of 2 meter is. So now here we know that the limit of resolution, the smallest angle that can be resolved, is given by 1.22 lambda by A. What is lambda? Wavelength, which is given as 600 nanometer. What is A? Aperture of the objective, which is given as 2 meter. So convert this 600 nanometer into SI system and substitute the 2 meter here, you will get the answer to be 3.66 into 10 raised to the power of minus 7 radian. Again, no difficult calculation is involved here. Question number 149. A ball is thrown vertically downward with a velocity of 20 meter per second from the top of a tower. It hits the ground after some time with a velocity of 80 meter per second. The height of the tower is. So let's say we have got this tower and we throw a ball down with, let's say, a speed u, and let's say the height of this tower is h. When this ball is about to hit the ground, let's say the speed becomes v, and this v will be equals to under root of u square plus 2gh. Now this v given as question is 80 equals to under root of u square, that will be 20 square plus 2 into 10 into the height that we need to find. On solving for h, you will get that the height comes out to be 300 meter, which is nothing but option 3. Question number 150. A cylinder contains hydrogen gas at pressure of 249 kilopascal and temperature of 27 degrees centigrade. What is that density? From the ideal gas equation, which is PV equals to nRT, we can play a little bit. We can write P by RT equals to N by V. If we forcefully multiply molar mass in numerator and denominator on right hand side, this number of moles into molar mass becomes mass of the gas, and this mass of the gas divided by volume becomes the density. So the density of gas is nothing but Pm by RT. The pressure in the question is given as 249 kilopascal, so 249 into 10 raised to the power of 3. Mass of the gas, molar mass. The gas here is hydrogen gas. So hydrogen gas has got molar mass of 2 gram, but you should not substitute here 2. You should substitute in SI system. So write here 2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3 upon RT. R is given as 8.3 and temperature is 27 degrees centigrade. 27 degrees centigrade is 300 Kelvin. So on solving, you will get the answer to be 0.2 kilogram per meter cube. Question number 151. When a uranium isotope 235U92 is bombarded with a neutron, it generates Kr 8936 plus 3 neutron and what? So here is we have got uranium 23592 and we are bombarding it with 1 neutron. So N10, it gives us Kr 3689 plus 3 neutron. So N, the charge is 0, the mass is 1, plus what? So let's say whatever else comes out, it has the symbol X, the atomic number Z and mass number A. First of all, I will do number of nucleon balance. When we do number of nucleon balance, here I have got 236 plus 1. So on the left hand side, I have got 235 plus 1, that is 236. And on the right hand side, I have got 89 here, 3 neutron. So 89 plus 3, each neutron has 1 mass, so 3 plus the atomic mass of X. So on solving, you will get that A equals to 236 minus 92, and 236 minus 92 is 414. So A of the second nuclei coming out has to be 144. Out of these 4, which option contains 144? Yeah, definitely option 4, and that is the right answer. Question number 152. The increase in the width of the depletion region in PN junction diode is due to. We know that when the PN junction diode is forward biased, the depletion region thins. When it is reverse biased, then the depletion region thickens out. Now here, question is the increase in the width of depletion region in PN junction diode is due to, so reverse bias only, in forward bias it actually thins out. Question number 153. The phase difference between displacement and acceleration of particle in simple harmonic motion. I said it many a times in class, the phase difference between displacement and acceleration comes out to be pi. The general equation of motion, displacement is given by a sin omega t plus phi. So the velocity is given by a omega cos omega t plus phi, and acceleration is given by minus a omega square sin omega t plus phi. And we have learned this many a time, that every time you get minus sin theta, you should think of it as sine of theta plus pi. So the phase difference between acceleration and position is pi. That is option number 4. That is the right answer to this question. Question number 154. An iron rod of susceptibility 599 is subjected to magnetizing field of 1200 ampere per meter. The permeability of the material of rod is. Now we know that the relative permeability of material is susceptibility plus 1. Susceptibility here is given as 599 plus 1. So relative permeability comes out to be 600. The permeability of material of the rod is, we know that the permeability of medium is relative permeability times permeability of free space. So that is 600 times permeability of free space, which is 4 pi into 10 raised to the power of minus 7. Simply multiply them and get the answer. So you might ask why they have given this magnetizing field of 1200 in the question. Time pass, just to confuse you. Question number 155. The quantities of heat required to raise the temperature of two solid copper sphere, both are made up of copper, of radii R1 and R2. R1 is 1.5 times R2 through 1 Kelvin are in the ratio. So both are made up of copper. Both of their temperature has to be increased by same amount, which is 1 Kelvin. They are asking what is the amount of heat required. Now here you need to visualize that the radius of first sphere is 1.5 times the radius of second sphere. So if the radius of second sphere is r, the radius of first sphere is 1.5 r. So it is definitely bigger. If it is bigger, it will have more mass. It will have more mass because it has got more volume. We know that the heat given equals to ms delta T. Since both are copper, specific heat is same. Since we are increasing the temperature by 1 Kelvin, the rise in temperature is same. So what matters is mass. Now since the radius are in ratio 1.5:1, the volume ratio, if I write V1 by V2, will be equals to 1.5 whole cube. Why? Because we know that volume is proportional to r cube. So if the radius is r in ratio 1.5:1, then the volume ratio will be 1.5 whole cube. And 1.5 whole cube can be written as 3 by 2 whole cube, and 3 by 2 whole cube is 27 by 8. Since the masses of these two will be in ratio 27:8, to increase the temperature by same amount, the heat required will also be in the ratio 27:8, and 27:8 is given us as fourth option. So the right answer here is option number 4. Question number 156. Now you, after looking at this question, you will be like, why I learned so much of Newton's law? This is the 0 level question that can be asked from Newton's law. Here the standard question, and I know all of you remember the answer, m1 minus m2 into g upon m1 plus m2, but still let's discuss it. Two bodies of mass 4 kg and 6 kg are tied to the two end of massless string. The string passes over a pulley which is frictionless. The acceleration of the system in terms of acceleration due to gravity. So I know that 10% of you might be remembering the formula is acceleration equals to m2 minus m1 into g by m1 plus m2. So substitute here the masses 6 and 4, so you get 6 minus 4 into g upon 6 plus 4, that is 10. So you get 2g by 10, which is g by 5, which is option number 2 here. Straight question, and you might be wondering why we learned so much of Newton's law. Question number 157. Now this question, if you do not remember the formula, you will be stuck in the paper. You went through the same formula so many times, and to be true, many a time even I forget this formula personally. It happens to me as well. But what I remember is that proportional to 1 by d square, proportional to the number of molecules per unit volume, and this is one of the question where NEET did not mention what does the terminology stand for, because this is the formula straightly taken from NCERT. So the mean free path of gas with molecular diameter and number density n can be expressed as, so the mean free path lambda equals to 1 by root 2 n pi d square. Here n is the number of molecules per unit volume. Question number 158. A short electric dipole has dipole moment of 16 into 10 raised to the power of minus 9 coulomb meter. The electric potential due to the dipole at a point at distance of 0.6 meter from the center of dipole situated on a line making an angle 60 degree with the dipole axis. So if we have a dipole of dipole moment P and short dipole, then at distance r the potential can be written as Kp cos theta by r square. So let us simply substitute K as 9 into 10 raised to the power of 9, P as 16 into 10 raised to the power of minus 9. This angle is given as 60 degree, so cos 60 becomes half upon r square, which is simply 0.6 whole square. And on solving this, you get a nice lovely answer of 200 volts. So the calculation is pretty easy and it's a simple question. It's just need that you remember this formula Kp is to cos theta by r square. Question number 159. Dimension of stress R. Of all the dimension, stress is a easy one. Stress has the same dimension as force per unit area. The dimension of force is mLT minus 2. The dimension of area is L square. So this is a pretty simple question. The dimension of stress comes out to be mL minus 1 T minus 2. Question number 160. Energy required to break one bond in DNA is 10 raised to the power of minus 20 joule. The value in electron volt is nearly. So this is a question which simply requires conversion from electron volt to joule or joule to electron volt. We know that 1 electron volt is 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 joule. 1 electron volt is the energy required to accelerate an electron through a potential drop of 1 volt. So that is 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 joule. So you can say that 1 joule is 1 by 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 electron volt. So 10 raised to the power of minus 20 joule has to be equals to 10 raised to the power of minus 20 times 1 by 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 electron volt, which on solving comes out to be 0.06. That is option number 2. Question number 161. In a guitar, two strings A and B are made up of same material, are slightly out of tune and produce beat of frequency 6 Hz. It means that the difference in their frequency is 6 Hz. When the tension in B is slightly decreased, the beat frequency increases to 7 Hz. If the frequency of A is 530 Hz, the original frequency of B is. Now see beta, original frequency of A is 530. So the frequency of A, let's say this is A, is 530. Now originally A and B produces 6 beats per second. If A and B originally produce 6 beats per second, it means that the frequency of B can either be 6 higher, that is 536, or the frequency of B can either be 6 lower, that is 530 minus 6, that is 524. Now we know that the fundamental frequency of an oscillating wire is 1 by 2L under root of T by mu. When we decrease the tension, what happens to the frequency of the vibrating wire? When we decrease the tension, the frequency decreases. Now let's say if the original frequency of B would have been 536, then on decreasing the tension, the frequency would have decreased. And as the frequency of B would have decreased, the gap between frequency of A and B would have decreased. So the beat frequency should have decreased. But as per the problem statement, the beat frequency increases from 6 and becomes 7. If the beat frequency becomes 7, it means that the gap should increase, and the gap will increase only when the original frequency of B should have been 524. If the original frequency of B should have been 524, then on decreasing the tension, the frequency will decrease and the gap between frequency of A and B will increase and become 7. So that's why the correct answer to question number 161 is option 1, which is 524 Hz. Question number 162. I said it in class, color code is the newfound love of CBSE. Whether it's main, whether it's NEET, they are continuously asking color code. And I think that you all remember the mnemonic B.B. Roy of Great Britain. So if you would have made table twice with your own hand as instructed to you, you would have done this question easily. So we know that the color code for yellow comes out to be 4, the color code for violet comes out to be 7, the first two colors represents the number, so that will be simply 47. The third color represents the multiplier. So brown here is the multiplier, and we know that for brown the color is 1, sorry, the number is 1. If the number is 1, the multiplier will be into 10 raised to the power of 1, and this is a gold rated resistor. Gold rated means 5% tolerance, silver rated means 10% tolerance. So since it has got 5% tolerance, so you will write plus minus 5%. So the answer is simply 470 ohm plus minus 5%. That is option number 3. Question number 163. Brewster's angle IB for an interface should be. Now, in which range the value of Brewster's angle lie? What is Brewster's angle? If the reflected ray and refracted ray are perpendicular to each other, then the reflected ray is plane polarized, and here we get the Brewster's angle, let us say IB. We know that tan IB is mu denser by mu rarer. But on the right hand side we have got mu denser by mu rarer. This quantity mu denser by mu rarer has to be greater than 1, na? So the tan of the Brewster's angle has to be greater than 1. Since tan of the Brewster's angle has to be greater than 1, and tan theta is 1 for which angle? Tan theta is 1 for 45 degree. So if tan theta has to be more than 1, the angle has to be more than 45 degree. So you know that IB should be more than 45 degree. But better, you can't make this angle of incidence more than 90 now. So it should be less than 90, but it should be more than 45. That is option number 2. Question number 164. A capacitor of a parallel plate capacitor with air as medium is 6 microfarad. With introduction of a dielectric, the capacitance becomes 30 microfarad. What is the capacitor? What is the permittivity of the medium? That's what we have to find. We know that the capacitance with dielectric equals to dielectric constant times the capacitance without dielectric. The capacitance with dielectric given as 30 microfarad. Dielectric constant, let us say K, times capacitance without dielectric 6 microfarad. So you get here that the dielectric constant is 5. Have said it many times, dielectric constant and relative permittivity are synonyms. They are parvayavachi of each other. We know that the permittivity of medium equals to relative permittivity times the permittivity of free space. The permittivity of medium came out to be 5, and the permittivity of free space they have given us in question as 8.85 into 10 raised to the power of minus 12. A pretty simple calculation, because you just have to multiply 5 to 8.85. When you do this, you get the answer to be 0.44 into 10 raised to the power of minus 1. Question number 165. Find the torque about origin when a force of 3 Newton act in the y direction. So a force of 3 j cap acts on the particle whose position vector is 2 k cap. So how to write the torque? Straightforward. Torque equals to R cross F. The position vector is given as 2 k cap cross the force vector, and the force vector is given by 3 j cap. So the magnitude simply comes out to be 6, and k cross j is minus I. So you get minus I. So which option is minus 6 I cap? Yeah, definitely option number 2. That is the right answer. Question number 166. A resistance wire connected to the left gap of a meter bridge balances 10 ohm of resistance in the right gap at a point which divides the bridge wire in ratio 3:2. So let's start visualizing this question. Here we have a meter bridge with us. So in the left gap we have a wire, okay, some wire. Which wire we don't know. And in the right gap we have a resistance of 10 ohm. And it says that the meter bridge is balanced in the ratio 3:2. So take this length as 3x and that length as 2x. Question is, if the length of the resistance wire is 1.5 meter, this wire has got length of 1.5 meter. So question is, then the length of 1 ohm of resistance wire is, then how much length of wire will have resistance of 1 ohm? That is the basic question structure here. So what to do? Let's say resistance of this wire is Rw. You will say that Rw upon 10 equals to 3x upon 2x, that is 3 by 2. So from here you get that the resistance of wire is 3 into 10, 30 divided by 2, which is 15 ohm. So better you can see that 1.5 meter of wire has got resistance of 15 ohm, and we know that resistance equals to rho L by A. So resistance is directly proportional to length. So 1.5 meter has got resistance of 15 ohm. Question is, how much length of wire will have resistance of 1 ohm? 1.5 meter of this wire has got resistance of 15 ohm, then how much length of wire will have resistance of 1 ohm? So using the unitary method, we can say that 1 ohm will be the resistance of 1.5 divided by 15 meter of wire, which is 1 by 10 meter of wire, and 1 by 10 meter of wire is nothing but 1 into 10 to the power of minus 1 meter, which is option number 1. Question number 167. For transistor action, which of the following statement is correct? Base emitter collector region should be of same size. No, we know that emitter has to be large size, collector has to be moderate size. Collector has to be large size, emitter has to be moderate size, base has to be thin in size. Both emitter junction as well as collector junction are forward bias. No, we know that emitter base has to be forward bias, base collector has to be reverse bias. The base region must be thin and lightly doped. Yes, this is correct. The base has to be thin as well as feebly doped. So this is the right answer. The right answer to 167 is 3. If you might ask why 4 is wrong, let's see it. Base, emitter and collector region should have same doping concentration. No, emitter is heavily doped, collector is moderately doped, and base is very feebly doped. So fourth option is also wrong. Let's move on to question number 168. The ratio of contribution made by the electric field and magnetic field component to the intensity of electromagnetic wave. Energy is equally split in the form of both electric field as well as magnetic field. Both electric field and magnetic field contribute equally to the energy of EM wave. That's why the energy ratio has to be simply 1:1. You don't need to solve anything. The answer is option number 1. Next question, question number 169. A charged particle having drift velocity of 7.5 into 10 to the power of minus 4 meter in an electric field of 3 into 10 to the power of minus 10 volt per meter has mobility of blah blah. So here it's a single step formula question. We need to know that the drift velocity equals to mobility times electric field. So beta, mobility is nothing but the drift velocity upon the applied electric field. In this question they have asked me electric field, so we need to find mobility, right? So substitute the velocity as 7.5 into 10 to the power of minus 4, electric field as 3 into 10 to the power of minus 10, you will directly get the answer as option number 1, which is 2.5 into 10 to the power of 6. Question number 170. A spherical conductor of radius 10 centimeter has charge of 3.2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 coulomb, uniformly distributed over it. What is the magnitude of electric field at a point 15 centimeter from the center of sphere? The radius is 10 centimeter and they are asking me electric field at 15 centimeter. 15 centimeter is definitely outside point. So how to write the electric field because of a sphere of charge q at an outside point? So the electric field is simply given by k q upon r square. K you can write bachcho as 9 into 10 to the power of 9. Q, the charge is given as 3.2 into 10 to the power of minus 7. And the radius is given as 15 centimeter. Please convert it into meter before substituting. So write here 15 by 100 meter whole square. On solving this, you will get the answer to be option 1, 1.28 into 10 to the power of 5 Newton per coulomb. Question number 171. Taking into account the significant figures, what is the value of 9.99 minus 0.0099? A simple question. So 9.99 minus 0.0099, on solving you will get this to be 9.9801. But the question is not question of basic maths, it's a question of significant figure. We need to remember the rule here. we need to represent the quantity to as many places after the decimal as in any one of the quantities used in the calculation. So, in the first quantity you have got answer up to 2 places after the decimal, in second quantity 4 places after the decimal, the least of them is 2 places after the decimal. So, you must report your answer only up to 2 places after the decimal. So, 2 places after the decimal, if you need rounding off, round it off, but here 0 round off, on rounding off you will get simply 9.98, which is nothing but option number 1. 172. In Young's double slit experiment, if the separation between coherent source is half and the distance of the screen from the coherent source is double, the fringe width becomes how much? So, let us see. The fringe width is simply lambda d by d. What is lambda? Wavelength. What is capital D? The separation between the source and screen. What is small d? The separation between the two sources. Here in the question, the distance of the screen from the coherent source is double. So, this d is becoming double. This d is becoming double. And in the question they have said that the separation between the coherent sources is half. So, this denominator is becoming half. So, denominator becoming half, numerator becoming double, denominator becoming half, numerator becoming double, overall the fringe width will become 4 times, and that is our option number 2. Question number 173. Two cylinder A and B of equal capacity are connected to each other via a stopcock. A contains an ideal gas at standard temperature and B is completely evacuated. The entire system is thermally insulated, no heat can go in. The stopcock is suddenly opened, the processes. So, here since no heat can go in, we can say this to be an adiabatic process directly. Isochoric means constant volume, isobaric means constant pressure, isothermal means constant temperature. Straightforward question. Question number 174. The energy equivalent of 0.5 gram of substances. This question is based on the most famous equation in physics, which is simply E equals to mc square. The energy associated with a mass m is given by mass times speed of light whole square. The mass given is here is 0.5 grams. So, write it in SI unit, 0.5 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. You all know that speed of light is 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8. So, square it up. And after doing a simple calculation, you will get that the answer is option number 1, which is 4.5 into 10 raised to the power of 13 joule. Question number 175. A capillary tube of radius r is immersed in water and water rises to a height h. The mass of the water in the capillary is 5 gram. Another capillary tube of radius 2r is immersed in water. The mass of the water that will rise in this tube is. So, let's consider this case. Case 1, you have got a capillary tube of height h, and second time you have got capillary tube of double the radius. Okay. So, first time the radius is r and second time the radius is 2r. We know that the height to which the fluid rise in capillary is inversely proportional to radius of capillary. So, when the radius becomes double, the height to which the fluid will rise will become half. So, if originally the fluid rose to a height h, now it will only rise to a height h by 2. To know what happens to the mass of the fluid rise, we just need to compare the volume. Originally, the volume of fluid that will rise in tube will be pi r square h. Now, the volume of fluid that will rise in the tube will be pi into 2r whole square into the height to which it rise, h by 2. Now, this quantity comes out to be 2 pi r square h. So, if the volume that rises in the tube becomes double, radius becomes double, area becomes 4 times, height becomes half. So, the volume overall becomes double. If the volume that rises in the tube becomes double, then the mass that rises in the tube should also become double. So, original mass rising was 5 gram, the new mass rising will be double of it. So, that will be 10 gram, that is option number 2. Question number 176. A screw gauge has got least count of 0.01 mm and there are 50 divisions on its circular scale. The pitch of the screw gauge is. So, we know that the least count of a screw gauge is nothing but the pitch upon number of division on circular scale, number of division on circular scale. So, beta, they have given us least count, they have given number of division on circular scale. What they are asking is pitch. So, you will simply say that the pitch of this screw gauge has to be the least count, which is 0.01 mm, multiplied by the number of division on circular scale, which is 50. So, you simply get here 0.5 mm, and that is our option number 2. So, 2 is the right answer for this question. Question number 177, my favorite semiconductor, and that to logic gate. For the logic circuit shown, the truth table is, so here the input is A, this is a NOT gate, it will reverse it, so the output here will be A bar. Here the input is B, it crosses a NOT gate, so it will reverse it, output will be B bar. This is a NOR gate, so the output from here Y will be nothing but sum of the two input plus a NOT. Now, using the De Morgan's theorem, we will break the rod, change the sign, so we will get A bar bar dot B bar bar. Now, this is nothing but A dot B, which is output of which gate? Which is output of AND gate. So, the output of AND gate looks like this, 0 1 1 1, no, 1 1 1 0, no, 1 0 0 0, no, it is 0 0 0 1. AND gate gives one output only when both the inputs are 1. So, let us move on to next question 178. The average thermal energy of monoatomic gas is, now this is straightforward formula. Now, what to do in this question? So, if the degree of freedom are 3 as for monoatomic gas, then the average energy associated with one of the molecule is simply 3 by 2 kb into T, which is nothing but option 1. What simpler thing can they ask us? Question number 179. A solid which has negative temperature coefficient of resistance R. What is the meaning of negative temperature coefficient? We know that the change in resistance equals to original resistance into temperature coefficient of resistance multiplied by delta T. Having a negative coefficient of resistance means that on heating the resistance should decrease. For conductors on heating, resistance increases. For semiconductor, it decreases. But here is the catch. The second option is semiconductors only. No, even in the case of insulators, when you heat it up, some of the bond breaks, and because of the breaking of some of the bonds, we can say that the number of charge carrier increases, so their conductivity as well as increases and their resistance also decreases. So, when you heat up a semiconductor or an insulator, the chances are that you will get more number of charge carriers, and as you get more number of charge carriers, then the conductivity will increase, the resistance will decrease, and that is when we say that the thermal coefficient of resistance is negative. Notice here chemistry is involved. Somebody might find one example of an insulator which on heating becomes even a worse conductor or something, but by and large this is the trend followed. Question number 180, and that is the last question. Two particles of mass 5 kg and 10 kg respectively are attached to ends of a rigid rod of length 1 meter and negligible mass. The center of mass of the system from the 5 kg particle is nearly at distance of. So, here we have a 5 kg particle and another 10 kg particle, and these two particles are separated by distance of 1 meter. So, we need to find the distance of center of mass from the 5 kg particle. So, take this one as origin. So, if you assume this as the x axis, you will say that the coordinate of second mass is 1, 0. So, you will simply write bacho xcm equals to m1 x1 5 into 0 plus m2 x2 10 into 1 upon m1 plus m2, that is 15. So, the answer comes out to be simply 10 by 15 meter, which is nothing but 0.66 meter. Here they have given as 0.67 centimeter. That's all. The paper was quite easy. Hope you score well. See you guys. Bye bye.